In this slide cast, we're going to look at the contract types. The second section of NZS 3910 talks about the contract. It establishes what the contractor is, what type of contract is it, and there are different types of contracts which are described in sections 2.1 to 2.4, and we're going to look at each one of these in turn. So the lump sum is where the tenderers submit one price for the contract price, and that is what they get paid. Doesn't matter if the quantities vary at all, they get paid what they submitted, that one lump sum. Measure and value is there's your schedule of quantities that is used to determine the contract price. So if the quantities vary, then the contractor gets paid more or less according to how the quantities vary. And then there's cost reimbursable, where the contractor is reimbursed for his costs plus a margin to cover his overheads and profit. We'll talk about these more later on. The evidence of contract in 2.7 establishes that there is a contract agreement present and how it is proved to be a contract agreement. There's also sections there about what documents the engineer and the principal need to provide, and if there are any ambiguities or things that aren't well understood, what to do about it there, and also about documents prepared by the contractor. So let's look at each one of these types of contracts in a bit more detail. So lump sum, the tenderers submit one price for the whole contract. If there's a variation, if the client wants to change things later on, it's going to be more expensive because there aren't. It's very hard for the contractor to price it all up because all he's done is he's just given one price to do the whole lot. The contract works need to be well defined. So if you're doing earthworks or pipe laying or something like that, something where the quantities can vary due to variations such as the climate or the ground conditions, then this is not a good contract to use. However, if you're talking about something like the supply of machinery or a well-defined building, then it is probably a good option. You may have a schedule of quantities there, but it is just there for guidance. It is not legally binding, if you like. So if the quantities vary, the contractor can't claim extra for a variation in quantities. In a measure and value contract, there is a schedule of quantities, and that is what guides how much the contractor is paid. So for example, with this 250 OD pipe, the scheduled quantity is 690 meters. Now in a lump sum contract, if it was 700 meters, he would still get paid that much. In this contract, if it was 700 meters instead of the 690 scheduled, he'd be paid more. So the measure and value contract is you fill in these numbers here and the rates are applied to calculate that. So that means that the actual amount of the actual contract value at the end of the contract may be different from what it was in the tender price. The last one is cost reimbursable, also known as a cost plus, and what happens is the contractor claims all his costs. So his plant and labour are all paid on an hourly rate, and he just claims those hourly rates. If he buys materials, he's paid, reimbursed the cost of those materials, and on top of that there's a percentage, 10, 15, 20% to cover overheads and profit. This form of contract removes all of the risk from the contractor. Now the client, the principal, is taking all of the risk. So that means that he's going to get a lower price, but the overall cost of the project may be more because anything that goes wrong, the principal pays for. As a matter of interest, the lump sum contract that we looked at before, that moves most of the risk over to the contractor. So they represent two different extremes of risk allocation.